What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Episode two. This is episode two, part two of just my journey in endurance sports. I just thought it was very important to start off these conversations with a place where you can go back and just learn about myself, learn where I came from, learn about my history, see if it resonates with you and your journey, maybe inspire you along the way as I get inspired by all of you. And a real recap of that last episode is really just my inception into endurance in 2017. That Couch to 5K program, which led to inevitably multiple road races up to the half marathon, the marathon distance, and then even dipping over into multisport, duathlons, triathlons, leading into some 70.3s. And really just that first full years of 2018, 2019 in multisport leading into 2020. We talked about a little bit of the downward progression of my progress early in 2020 at that Gasparilla Run Challenge, which I just things were coming to a head. Kind of just really didn't have the best structured training at the time. Was kind of just going this extra, week after week, thinking I needed to just like every workout had to be better than before, and that was kind of just leading into these overuse issues. We talked about IT band syndrome, plantar fasciitis, and there needed to be a change. So that was that 2020 year where races were canceled, and for that point in my journey, I'm kind of grateful that the races were canceled, not because of the reasons that they were, but it helped me. It helped me in my journey. It helped me slow things down. It helped me realize not every week needs to be better, be faster. Progress and endurance is not linear in fashion. It you have to train yourself, stress yourself, and absorb the stress in a recovery phase in order to progress and break through plateaus. And now anybody that gets into endurance, I guess the thing that kind of could make people go down the path that I went down was, you get those new beginner type goals, and the younger you are, just the more natural you recover from things. So if you start a little earlier, it's just natural to want to get out there and keep crushing it, week after week. And your body will absorb that up to a certain point, but the body's a very strange, smart thing. And I learned that is that if you don't treat it right and you don't treat it with the recovery aspect that you need, it will force itself into recovery, i.e., with overuse or unfortunately injury or even just depleting down and possibly getting sick. So that was kind of the path I was going down there. And at the time, I was logging everything. I started with a Fitbit early on in the running and walk running phases in 2017. Progressed quickly. Then I started using a Garmin. I think the 735 XT was my first watch. I love that, man. The metrics that it would put into Garmin Connect. And then I got into on Training Peaks. I think around 2019 is when I just started logging my data on there and being able to analyze things. And, it's a great software to be able to analyze everything like that. Still use it to this day as well with my coached athletes. And just cruising along. Before that, I was writing things down. I'd write all my workouts out. I still have some of these log books around. We'll get into the deep dive on that at a future episode of the data and things like that. And we can really break things down on how the progression really unfolded over time. But here we are. I mean, 2020, we're coming out of it. I was able to get a triathlon in at the end of that year, a local try. So I was stoking that fire. And again, I've been progressing every year. Every season was something new, a new distance, a new challenge, a new something. And at the time, going into 2021, as things were opening up, I was doing some fundraising for an organization, Team Blue Line at the time. I was very into that and their mission, and I was doing great things with them. And the team was growing, and they were going to have a team race in 2021. They were going to go do Ironman Chattanooga in September of 2021. And due to the amount that I was helping fundraise for them and how I was involved with them at the time, they offered me the opportunity for a registration for that race. If you know Ironman registrations, they can be kind of expensive. So to not just have to really worry about the travel and the logistics of getting there and not so much the race cost that year was an opportunity that, I felt with the past couple 70.3s I did a few before that. If I plan the year right and really focus my year around that goal, that I could accomplish that goal. So I sat down with my family because that was my boys were 5 and 6 at the time that year when we were talking about this, and it really, to me, when you're gonna be looking at a goal like that, and you're the type of person that is gonna put that plan into play and really check all the boxes from start to finish on that goal. Make sure when you're doing all the sessions and things like that, like you're not going to half-ass this. Like that has to be a conversation you have with your family at that time because they needed to be all in on it too. They needed to understand that, my summer weekends are going to be kind of shot. I'll be out there at some point doing sessions on Saturdays for hours and then having to go out again on Sunday morning for long runs and getting home from work and late night, early mornings. And I needed the support. So they were all in. They said, "Let's go. Let's do it. Let's book a family trip. Let's get some. It's a team event. Let's go down there and let's have some fun." So that was 2021's goal right there, and I still wanted to progress, and I was the 50K I was supposed to do in early 2020 was canceled, so that was pushed to 2021. So I had that scheduled for April of that year. So it was going to be my first 50K. It's going to be an Ironman this year. We were going to do Main 70.3 leading up to with the training for the Ironman. So it was a full year. 2021 was probably one of my most memorable years as far as endurance training and racing. In 2021, then I started documenting my journey to Ironman on YouTube. That's kind of how I started to create more that year. I knew my boys were young, but I wanted them to be able to look back and be able to see the journey that led up to that day. Because at the time, even now still, they kind of don't understand the totality of it. But one day when they get a little older, they'll realize like, oh man, look what dad used to do or dad still does. And they'll be able to look back and be able to watch some of these videos and be able to see the amount of work and dedication that goes into this one day event. Like it's all about delayed gratification and the fact that you're going to do these things day after day, week after week for months leading up to this one day, this one specific task, this one event, and how much preparation goes in so that you can have a good, strong day out there. So that's super important to me that I wanted to really document that. And it was a great year. Like the people I trained with that year, I bounced around. I trained with a bunch of different groups. I documented all that. I still look back at some of those videos, for some inspiration and motivation even to this day. So I'm super glad that I started all this and just learned a lot in that space of documenting and digitizing your memories of this whole thing. People bust my chops all the time when I'm taking pictures during training or after training, but it really is awesome when you can look back at the end of the year even and just be like, look at all the fun we had this year and look at all the people that got out there and supported my goals and supported each other out there and getting towards these finish lines. So I had laid out a plan that year. I had researched, I had picked a training plan I wanted to do. I was still self-coached at the time, and I had it a 20-week block that was going to build towards this race, and it would wound up starting right after the 50K that year, which was in April. That 50K, it was just going to be an experience. I did it with two friends. We did some training for it, trained up to that distance, and it was an awesome experience. We got a little lost and midway through the race. We wound up doing more than 50K, a little bit extra, but it was a memorable day. I documented that as well. You can check that video out on the YouTube, my first 50K, and I believe I actually got I think I got COVID the week after that. And then because it was like perfect timing per se, because I like this 2 week window between the 50K and when my 20-week training block would start for the Ironman. And I think I wound up getting COVID that week. So again, everything was lining up that year because if I had to pick a week that year to get sick, it would have been that week. And I wound up getting sick. So recovered from that, thankfully, and then continued on with the training towards Maine and Chattanooga that year. Just documented everything. Learning it all, intensity, volume, putting those recap videos in every week. It was really motivating people. They were following the journey. They were getting excited too. And, it's one thing when you start documenting something leading up to something you've never done before, because is there a chance that you're not going to make your goal? Is there a chance that something could happen on race day that prevents you from crossing that finish line? Absolutely. But to me, I learned that year that the whole process and the journey of everything was, in that 20-week window. That was what defined me that year, was being able to do all the training for that 20 weeks. short of the outcome on race day, regardless of what it was, like I knew the work that I put in, and everybody around me that was following along knew as well. So there was no expectations on race day per se, or were we going to be upset if the race didn't go as planned, because we really we knocked it out of the park that year. Like it was just like training was spot on, everything was lining up. Between my career, my family life, everything scheduling wise just was lining up, and it was setting up to be a pretty magical year. And we went to Maine. That was the last year they had the race in Old Orchard Beach, and that was an amazing race as well. Documented that and recapped that race. It was just a phenomenal 70.3. Probably because I was a little over prepared for it because of the training that I was doing for the Ironman. So that's just probably one of the reasons why it went so well that year. With the 50K early on, a lot of run volume, uh, just getting in a little extra volume because of the Ironman training, and then doing the 70.3 in the process. It really, it really was awesome. So here we are, just getting along. I could probably do, an entire episode based off my Ironman experience, and I might one day. But I get asked a lot. As of right now, it's still my first and only full Ironman that I've trained for and raced in. And from time to time, I get asked, why are you going to go back this year? You're going to go race again? And it's on my mind. It's been there the last couple years, but it really has to be the right time. Like that year, everything lined up for me to go do that race. And like for anybody listening who actually knows me on some type of personal level or level as an athlete or a coach, knows that I'm very specific and task driven with a goal. So if I'm going to sign up for an Ironman, I'm going to train for that Ironman. I'm not going to half-ass it. I'm not going to miss sessions. So it needs to be an all-in approach on things. And as well, there's this part of me that realized in the last year or two on why I haven't signed up for another full Ironman yet is I the journey to that race and that distance, and because it was 2017 catch the 5K, 2018, and then doing first half Ironman, another half Ironman, a couple more in 2019, a pause for 2020, then Ironman 2021. Like that was a nice, awesome progression into that distance. And I just feel like if I go back to that distance, it's going to muddy my memory on that journey to that race that year and that experience, because it was one of the most magical experiences I've had in endurance so far. And I don't want to do that day an injustice by, just going into this distance again right now. Because the more you do a certain distance, like the 70.3s now, I've done a bunch of them. It's just another race. It's another goal. It's another on the calendar. You start to lose the memories of some of the awesome days you had out there and the training that you had leading up to it, because you're doing it. It becomes the new normal. Same with the 50Ks, which you'll hear about. I've done a handful of them now. So when I train for a 50K, it's not this earth shattering thing anymore. It's just another 50K that I have to train for and treat that race, as just another race. Same with marathons, half marathons, and all things like that. So it's just part of the process and the grind now. But that Ironman, it's just lives. I have, if you're looking on the video here, the plaque for it right hanging right there, and I look at it all the time. It was just an amazing lead up to that. I did I think it was an 11:34 at that Ironman, and it was just a great day. I felt awesome from start to finish. The vibe, like I still have vivid memories of that day. And for me to go do that another race that distance again is gonna, granted, could I make even better memories? Yeah, but no, you're not going to be able to supersede that first when it was so good, memory wise, for that race. So that's another reason why I just haven't committed yet. I'm only going to be 41 years old, so I feel like I still have a long time in endurance sports, and while I'm youngish, I still have some ability and speed on some other distances that I'd like to take care of first, before I go on to the longer course stuff for multisport. So again, that's why just I haven't signed up for another Ironman up to this point, because I get asked that question a lot. So we finished that year off. I mean, it was fantastic. After the Ironman that year, I did the New York City Marathon, my first and only New York City Marathon. I got a bib through a local team through a raffle. And that's the reason why I did New York City that year. Awesome experience. I'm not a big city person, but that race and that experience again, that people are like, oh, you're gonna go to New York City again? I don't think I want to, because I remember that race now as being another special event, another special day, and I don't want to falter those memories of that first time going to that event. Like, I still vividly remember that race. As far as the other marathons and things, they start to get intertwined and things like that, but that one stands out. So if I were to go back there and do it again and some other things, it might just take away from the memory of that day, and that's something I don't want to do. So every year in endurance now, this is end of 2021, I push the envelope, right? Couch to 5K, 10K, half marathon. Then we moved into multi-sport. Then we moved into half Ironman, then 2 half Ironmans, and then we did 50K and Ironman 2021. So these events, I was always pushing the envelope every year. I was like, I need to do something different. That's my goal, and that's how I'm going to continue to grow in this sport so I don't get stagnant. So 2022, I knew I didn't want to go back to the Ironman distance, but I love the 70.3 distance. It was just a great balance of amount of training, how well I can perform, and just enjoying other parts of my life during the training. It didn't fully consume. I was all in on the training, but it didn't fully consume me during those training blocks. So that year I said, we're going to do 3 70.3s in one season, and that's going to be something, that'll be the new thing for the year. So that year we signed up for Maine, which was then now in Augusta. It would move cities the last year for Atlantic City, and we were going to go to North Carolina 70.3 to finish off the year. As well, early in the year, because I really got into trail running through that 2020, 2021 window, I hooked up with Long Island Trail Running Club, an awesome group of local trail runners that are just always out there. And from about, I would say, November to through about April, is that window where I switched to a lot of trail running. It really, really has helped me with my running and my endurance, being able to get out there, run longer distances, and kind of be carefree with pace, just kind of enjoying volume and holding some volume over the winter has paid huge dividends in my endurance journey for the rest of the year. So I was going to go back to the 50K distance for 2022. I didn't want to get lost on the course. I was going to train up for it. I knew all much better about fueling for that now. And I said, we want to go, we want a PR for that 50K at that race. It was the same race. It was across Long Island, the shore to shore race. And trained a bunch leading into that early season, that April race in 2022, and PR'd that 50K. So that was another check in the box. I was feeling great for the year. We went to Maine, 70.3 that year. Traveled by myself up there, stayed in an Airbnb, and a little bit of a disaster. Kind of got a stomach issue the night before and the morning of the race, so it didn't really go as well as I wanted. Had some like GI discomfort throughout the race, and just didn't go as smoothly as I wanted it to. So I'd love to go back there and get some redemption. One of these years, hopefully soon. Atlantic City, we redeemed ourselves in early September that year and had an awesome race to send off the last time racing Atlantic City 70.3. Went to North Carolina, had another outstanding race outside of a flat tire. That was my first flat tire at one of these events. At mile 43, I was crushing the bike course. Got a flat tire, but was able to change it very quickly because, again, that's a skill. There's more to just multi-sport besides swim, bike, run. There's a lot of things you need to pay attention to and learn during the process. And I prided myself on being able to know how to handle a situation like that. So I was able to get it rectified pretty quickly. I crushed the second half of that bike. The last 15 miles or so of that bike, just because I was a little jazzed up and kind of angry. And then had a decent run that day. Finished up pretty strong there in North Carolina. That was another awesome race. And then now, that's it. That finished up. Had an awesome year. 2022. Real good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that, really went on that year. But 2023 now, as far as, what are we going to do 2023 now, pushing forward? We're getting closer to present day here. I had done that Gasparilla Distance Challenge, 4 races over 2 days in Florida in the beginning of 2022, which was, like I said, a little bit of a disaster between the IT ban that was bothering me and getting a little bit of food poisoning the night before. So I said, I want to go back to that. I want to do really well there. I feel good now. I can use some of my trail running to prepare for that. It's all road, and it's like 32 miles over 4 days. And I went back there 2023 with a nice rematch, and I did very well. I placed in some of the top percentages in my age groups. They give out awards for like percentage finishes. Finished in the overall awards category for the actual challenge, which was, if you did all 4 races, they average out your pace. So I finished there feeling really good, really strong, and had a great 2 days there. That was, I believe, in February of 23. We moved into April of 23, the short 50K. I was going back, and I was kind of an A goal of going under 5 hours for that 50K. Trained up. It was kind of a little emotional finish there because I think towards the end, the last couple miles, I started to realize like, you're going to do this, man. You're going to hit and pass that 5 hours. And then, 2 years before, I think the first time I did that race, I think it was like 6:20, with the wrong turn we took and just enjoying it with friends. So to take that much time off and shave that much time over a couple year period was pretty awesome. So it was a pretty decent effort there. Sub 5 hour at the 50K distance. That was awesome. I was supposed to do a 50 miler at the beginning of 2023. That was going to be one of my next level goals for that year. It just didn't pan out logistics wise for the race I had selected, and the weekend that it was. So awesome friends I had, Long Island Trail Running Club, a few of us, a few of the core people that I ran with a lot. We decided to do a 50-mile virtual locally. It poured sideways the entire time we did it. I think we did it in May. It was right after the shore, and that smoked me being out there. But we did it. We crushed 50 miles through the trails here locally, and it was pretty cool to. That kind of opened my eyes in that there was more now to endurance than just chasing actual finish lines. There was adventures to be had. There was things to see, things to do, things to come up with on your own with friends. And because you're able to move your body through space as efficiently as we were at the time, you reach a point where, you can kind of just like pick 2 points on a map and be like, hey, let's go. Let's scope this out and check it out and get cracking at it. So that's kind of how that 50 miler ended up. I super thankful that they got me to check that distance for the first time. So that was 2023. We checked the box for that first 50 miler, sub 50K, sub 5 hour 50K. And now we're looking at 2023 was a big announcement in the endurance community near us. Jones Beach 70.3, a 70.3 in our own backyard where we train. So for anybody listening that knows of that's not local to Long Island, Jones Beach 70.3, where the swim is, there's a bike path there that's 40 miles long or so loop, and you know that's where most of my training is for endurance sports in the spring and summer. So it's literally home court advantage to be able to sleep in your bed the night before an event like that, not have to the travel logistics, and the fact that so many people. Long Island is one of the meccas of endurance sports per capita by far. Just the amount of runners, multi-sport athletes, trail runners in this small geographical area is insane. The amount of clubs we have, coaches, groups, masters, swim clubs, it's crazy. So a lot of people who are in that multi-sport community, that's a race they do, or at least they're there and coming out and supporting. So to have all that going on so local in your backyard, how could you not want to do that race? So I was pumped for that. 2023, that was the goal for that year was going to be do well at that 70.3. So we were going to finish up as well. It was going to be a late season for 70.3s, really give us the summer to train. And we were going to do North Carolina at the end with some friends as well. Jones Beach 70.3 came, trained all summer for it, along with some short course racing and things like that. And we got waffled with a remnants of a hurricane that was close by for that first inaugural year. They shortened the swim. Gnarly bike, gnarly run. I got it all documented. You can check that video out. And we were kind of amped up my little group to get to North Carolina because we're like, we need a redemption race. We got our asses kicked out there in Jones Beach that year. So we went to North Carolina that year. I got an interesting story about that North Carolina race. For those that traveled in the house with me, you know that I came down with a fever and the day before the race, and went to the doctor, and they said I had strep. I don't get fevers much. I think I can count my adult life maybe 2 or 3 times I've ever had a fever. So I knew right away as soon as we got there. I said, "Oh, this is going to be bad." Um, I still raced the race that day. Was that a good decision or not? We'll talk about that another day. But actually had a decent day for what it was worth out there in North Carolina. Finished that up, and that was another end of a good year. At that time, though, 2023, we were, personal life wise, family, we were moving right after North Carolina. We were in the process of buying a new house and moving, staying on Long Island, but just moving to a different town. So there was a lot of stress going on. It's probably why my immune system was a little beat down, especially even after Jones Beach, just racing in that weather, and then the stress of everything else. I'm a big proponent of balancing stress with endurance training. That is something that I pride myself on. Is if you're going to stress your body with endurance sports, running, whatever, run, swim, bike, run, whatever you're doing, trail running, if you carry a high level of stress due to family reasons, career reasons, work reasons, life reasons, whatever it is on the other side of things, it's a recipe for disaster. You cannot have, you know, both of these high levels of stress, and they're just not going to help each other produce, go, further yourself in endurance sports. It's just they're counterintuitive. You need to really balance it. So if your life is really stressed because maybe you're changing jobs or you're moving or something like that, you may want to bring down the intensity and the volume a little bit on your endurance training, just so you don't burn yourself out and wind up getting sick or anything like that. If you're going to carry high volume of both, it's just very hard to recover. It's very hard to stay motivated, and eventually your body's going to tell you to slow down. So I was fighting through that. We moved, got over being sick. It lasted a little while. Moving into 2024, I said, all right, here we go again, another year. What are we going to do? Just finished up the 50 miler this past year. That was awesome. And then we said, you know what? This shorter short race, which we've done a few times now, is they did in 21, 22, and 23. They were offering 100K. So what we were going to do is start on the North Shore of Long Island, and instead of ending at the South Shore, you turn around and you head back up to the North Shore. You're going to double the distance out and back on the course. That was appealing to me. There was rumor that it may not happen every year. This is kind of like they're just testing it out for the year. So I said, what better time than to train with friends, train up with them, race with friends out there, and get this done. So we signed up for the 100K shore to shore for April of 2024. Triathlon wise, want to do some local racing. Wanted to go sub 5 hours at Jones Beach, because hopefully we'd have good weather the second year around. So we headed in shore to shore, that 100K. Again, another huge memorable day. Still the longest distance I've run to date. Ran most of it with a friend of mine, Rachel, who's just a phenomenal runner. She tied for first place female that day. And for the most part, the race went very well. I don't remember a lot of hiccups besides just the usual muscles fighting you towards the end. But that shore to shore, we checked the box, and it was another like pushing the field goal posts. Telling this story right now, it seems funny that it's just like, what's next, and where's the failure going to be? But it was a very precise, methodical journey up to this point of taking the stairs, like I say. You could take the elevator and jump into multisport, go right to Ironman your first 12 months. I've seen it. I've coached people for it, and that's their journey. My journey is the stairs, is what's the next step. Take it, enjoy it. Let's get to the next platform, reassess. To me, my landings on those staircases are at the end of the year. Then we look up at the next staircase and we see what each step is to get to that next platform, and enjoy each step and each level that we're going up to reach that platform for the end of the year. So check that box, 100K. We trained all summer. I had a great summer. We were in the new house. One of the reasons why I moved was to have more space to be able to do training and group training, and be able to have a place, a little area like this where I can do more content, more creation. So it really helped out that aspect of things. And then we went into Jones Beach, lining up to be a great race. And And again, we got remnants of a storm that day. If I still think almost just as bad as the year before. It was a full swim, gnarly swim, one of the gnarliest swims I've ever done. Again, rain and wind on the bike, holding on for dear life, and just a run that I ran so fast because I just wanted to be done. Ran sub 5 hours at that race. Checked the box there. Was riding high and kind of looking for the next thing. After all that settled down afterwards, was kind of just thinking like, what are we gonna do now? Got talked into doing a backyard ultra in December, and that's a looped course, so like 4+ miles per loop, and every hour on the hour you start until there's one person left. So everybody will DNF except the finisher, the person who runs the longest. And I went in with that goal of not wanting to do anything. We've already had a great year, but we had a lot of fitness, and I wanted to support friends and learn about that format of event. Again, about these experiences now, just like learning things and spreading yourself out a little bit. So the goal was, I did my 100K in just under 12 hours. I did Ironman in 11:30 and change. So I believe the 100K was the longest time frame event I did. It was like 11:50 or something like that, 11 hours, 50 minutes. So I said, well, if I do 12 hours, that's going to be 50 miles. And then that will be technically the longest event time-wise I've ever done. So that was another like thing I could put on, another stair just getting up to the platform for the end of the year. So that's what we did. I decided to do that. We did 50 plus 1, so 12 hours plus 1. And it wound up being 12 hours and change of actual time and event. So that technically is the longest event time-wise that I've done to date now. So there's a lot of just check boxes, like just expanding the base of things that I've done and I'm able to do ever since I had this change in training structure and how I'm able to, knock on wood, stay healthy as long as I can through all these different distances. And I'll talk about why it's important at some point to not just lock yourself into one distance. You need to become kind of versatile in the endurance field and be kind of make your body a little pliable. It keeps you out of being so rigid of just this one specific goal over and over and over again. So that was the end of 24, which was literally, a couple months ago. We're in the end of February 2025 right now. Tomorrow will be March 1st. And then this year, what did we have? Did we set big goals for 2025 this year as far as things we want to do? This has been an interesting year. This is probably the first year I did not lay out my entire year and sign up for things ahead of time. But one of my things that I decided to do, a friend of mine was going out west to Arizona for Black Canyon 50K. And I was always in the back of my head, like, you've been running some trails here for a few years now. You've been doing some events. It would be awesome to travel outside. You never really traveled to a trail race before. So to go out west for a 50K run was like, that's going to be something new for me. One of those bucket list adventures that I've been looking to do. So we went out there a couple weeks ago, knocked out the 50K. Amazing experience. Again, one of the most memorable trail events just because of the location. It was from the minute we landed till we left there, I was in love with the area, the landscape, just everything about it. It really was awesome. And if you're somebody like that who kind of just runs local and things, travel somewhere awesome and do a race. I didn't have a hard time goals for it. I knew what I should be able to do on that course. We fell right about in range there, but it was more of just the experience and the journey with that event and checking the box out there. Early in the year, instead of pushing the envelope onto new things, events I really haven't done, I created like a goals and bucket list file on my computer in January this year. And type of things that I'm adding to that are revisiting some of the past distances I've done, races I've done, and seeing where there's more meat on the bone that I could chip off still. For instance, right now, basically heading into this block of training for the next 2 months, the next 8 weeks, is to try and PR my 13.1 time. It stands at about 131 and change, and I want to go sub 130 at a race at the beginning of May. So right now, like, that's one of my goals this year. Now, it may not be a new experience, but I've experienced so many different distances and types of races now where now I want to come back in and start picking off certain things, putting in good training blocks, redoing some training towards those events now that I've learned a lot more and be able to do that. I want a PR 50K, the short of shore again. I want to go back to that one more time in April. And I've done that course a bunch of times now, so I have so much data involved with that, and I can have great pacing plans put in place for that. And that's something I really like is like, give me a goal, give me a task. Let's come up with a plan, a pacing plan, a fuel plan. And it's like a mission. Like we want to check the box, start to finish that day. So that's going to be for April. And again, May, hopefully a 13.1 attempt at breaking that 130 barrier. And I do a lot of short course local racing. And I would still like to, for 5Ks, the last couple years, I've gotten under sub 20 a bunch of times. That's kind of like the new standard is like this 1930 time frame. I've gone once or twice under 19 minutes, but they were kind of on courses that measured just a little short. Like it was like their first year doing the 5K, so it only measured out to like 2.98 or 3.0. And that's, to me, it's technically it's a race that, is time stamped at under 19, but a true 3.1 mile, a 5K, I would love to do sub 19 this year at some point at that distance. I'll have a few opportunities to do it on courses I know measure the proper distance, and that'll be another time goal as well. As far as triathlons go, local stuff, sure I'm going to do Jones Beach again. Again, it's one of those things I talk with my family, like, how could I not do it? It's just a good financial decision. Like, how do you not do a 70.3 event that's in your backyard? So will we go to any others? To be determined. Again, I'm having some fun at other things now with the coaching as well. And that's going to be probably one of the next episodes. It's going to be how I got into coaching and then the coaching journey with that. Because just like my endurance sports, which you're learning about now, is how I like to kind of push the envelope, explore my, broaden my horizons with these events, is that's the same mentality I took to the coaching space. And the year after year of doing new things, pushing new processes out to the athletes and growing there. I never want to stay stagnant with anything. I'm always trying to look to learn, to grow. That's why we're talking on here, like, get with the times here and learn how to put a podcast together. Like that's one of the goals for this year, was to do that on the coaching and creation side. So that's where we're at right now. And now that we're caught up, and why it was important is because as we talk with other people, and you'll hear about my experiences and race recaps, if you watch these 2 episodes, you will be brought up to speed now on where I'm at here going into March 1st, 2025 tomorrow, which tomorrow actually, and I don't know when this will be published, but I'm doing a new type of event. Again, checking another box for the year of something I've never done, is a King of the Hill event. It's about a 1.4 mile loop. It's got about 200 feet of elevation up at a park by us, and it's going to be a 3-hour event. Whoever can do the most loops in that amount of time. And not looking to win it. Trust me, it's going to be a good training day. I got tired legs from training this week, but a few people are doing it, and it's just going to be an awesome training day, an awesome experience. Get a lot of good data, and who knows, maybe go back there at another point and try and push myself and PR that event. That's kind of how I like to do things, is like test it, evaluate it, research, come up with a plan, and then enact it again. Just like that Backyard Ultra. Will I go back to that race at some point? I don't know, but I have tons of information and data now where I would be able to do that. So to recap where I've been, and this was fun for me because I've never done this before. This is not to gloat. This is not to brag. This is just about to show you what lacing up a pair of shoes and going for a run, how it may change your life. So from 2017 to the present time now, you're talking, looking like 7 to 8 years of solid, just running, training, racing, without any gaps of taking time off. I keep track of all my official race results. I have an Excel file broken down by distance and type of event, and I'm very just comparative. Just again, me versus me. I don't care about fighting against people or for age group stuff. It's all about bettering myself. Like if I run that 129:58, 13.1 that day, that's my win. I don't care if I race at it winds up being a competitive field that day and I come in last. Like, but if I beat what my goal was for the day, to me, that's the whole point of the journey. So I was like, oh, let me count and just see what I've been up to for the past couple years. And it was a little bit about zooming out and looking at everything totality wise on what you've accomplished. So I break it down 5K races and below. I love short course racing. I love testing myself. It's a very important metric to be able to find out what your fitness is at that point. So I've run now almost 50, it says 49 5K or below events. These are official events. 26 events that were above the 5K up to the 13.1, not including the 13.1 distance. So that would be 5 milers, 10Ks, 15Ks, whatever that may be. 13.1 says about a dozen half marathons, 4 standalone road marathons, 5 50Ks, 2 50 milers, 1 100K, numerous adventure runs of all distances. That's something of like picking out, running across Long Island. We do these 20-mile out, point to points in the winter time. We do those every year. As far as multi-sport stuff, 20 plus short course duathlons and triathlons, 12 70.3 events. We had that Ironman event. And this is, for me, running changed it all. Running changed my life. That's why I'll always stick wholeheartedly with running and helping people with running. It's one of my passions is, what has been the progression of my journey and how I was able to accomplish all this was looking back at, the mileage year after year leading into, and this is off of Garmin. So if I had a device before that, but when Garmin started tracking things, so back in 2018, we had about, a 500-mile run year, and 2019, 980 miles. Then the next year, almost 1,100 miles. The next year, just under 1,300. 2022, just over 1,300. 2023, almost 1,500 miles. Last year, over 1,800 miles run. It's been this slow graph when I look at the app that I use of year after year training. And why I'm saying that is just it can't be this all in. You see people doing things and you just go out there and start hammering down. Like, it's not gonna work. It has to be a slow progression to get to where you want to go, especially the later you start in life. I started when I was 34 years old, which was good. It was a good time. It probably would have been better if I started in my mid to late 20s with all this and, progressed through my 30s. But that's where I'm at now. I'm in my 40s and I'm still pushing the envelope. I'm still trying to PR distances that I ran in my, 30s a couple years ago. And for me to be able to still do that and document that, I think provides exceptional value for the other age group athletes out there that are curious to understand maybe what their potential is. And what my potential is versus somebody else's potential, completely different ends of the spectrum. There's people that'll be very upset when they don't run a 3-hour marathon. There's gonna be people that just want to get to the end of the marathon in a cutoff, so the greatest part about endurance sports is there's a goal and a journey for everybody. It's not so, one-sided. Nothing defines you as a runner or an endurance person that's out there doing these trainings and racings by saying, well, you're not a runner if you don't do a 4-hour marathon, or you're not an Ironman if you don't go under, 14 hours or 12 hours or anything like that. Like, just being out there and doing it has already leveled you up beyond humanity. Like, there's, just look at the friends you had when you were younger. Look at some of your coworkers, and, not saying we're better than anybody or anything like that, but just understand what you're doing. Don't be so hard on yourself, because it's such a small percentage of everybody in this world. Like, you're comparing yourself against, like, if you're comparing yourself against the other endurance athletes out there, age group wise, you're just comparing yourself against this minute amount of people that are getting after it. So the fact that you're even in that minute amount of people is exceptional. Seriously. Like, kudos and awesome to you. So that's where we'll end for today. Thanks for tuning in. I had fun talking about this journey. Now we can get into some nitty gritty. Again, I'll talk to you. Coming up is going to be one of these, my journey as a coach, how I got involved in that and why I love coaching. And then boom, we could just start rocking and rolling with the kind of current events on things and talking to people and getting the word out there. So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to whatever platform you're listening to this on, comment if you're able to on any of them. Let me know what you think and any questions you have for future stuff. Don't forget, check the website, www.giveitatry.com. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep balancing that life 1 mile at a time, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.